What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. J-Buck with some real stories for you. We're talking about catfish today. The rigs that we're using to get after some big shovels, big flatheads, and then those blue cats. Nothing but bobber fishing today, float fishing. Let's dive into the gear. Alright, so we've been fishing for cats for a long time, but don't really talk about the gear that much, so we wanted to come at you with the stuff we use to get after cats, whether we're in the rivers, whether we're at a pay lake or bank fishing. This type of fishing gets it done. There's all sorts of ways to get after big fish. You can lure fish for cats, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to talk about bobbers, float style fishing. That gets it done. Alright, let's jump in to this rod and reel here. First up, we've got this Battalion right here. This is a 10-foot surf casting rod. We are really partial to a surf rod, a surf casting rod when getting after catfish, even if it's in the river, or like I said, bank fishing. The way these rods load is amazing for slinging 1 to 4 ounce baits, 6 ounce baits, or 6 ounce rigs, I should say, as well. That really gets it out there easy. It's light on your back. They're very accurate. Let's say compared to one of these rods right here, it's like a big old catfish river rod that they want you to throw. You can see the diameter in this blank here. Look how beefy that is compared to this right here. Just completely different. You can get after these big cats with these rods. Setting the hook is a little bit harder. They're nice in the river, but I really would say think about a surf casting rod. It's going to be a little bit more work for you to track down the right one for you. If you want to go with this Battalion, it's going to be a great option. This 10-footer has been amazing. It's been very accurate. Love throwing this type of rig on it. You can throw lures on it as well, so don't be shy. Now, let's not skip out on the reel. You're going to need something with a lot of power for these fish, guys. Just because you connect with a couple 20-pounders, depending on where you're at, is going to determine what type of gear you need. We're trying to fish for the fish up into the 50 to 70 pound range. We get a lot of 25 to 30 pound fish, but you never know when you're going to hook up with a big one. So a big reel is a must. We're really partial to these Abu Garcia round reels. This is a 6500 Pro Rocket, one of their older series reels, but it's been amazing. Comes traditionally with two knob handle, but we swapped it over to this power handle right here just because we love the extra torque that a power handle gives on these fish when you're fighting them, especially close to the bank. You can go with the 2-handle as well. It's okay. It's a little more work on your wrist, but you can't go wrong with the power handle. This is, I think, a must when getting on these fish. I control just fine with this. We're running braid to a leader here. This is 80-pound braid, Power Pro, and it's been amazing. It throws very well. It's got its braking system here on the palm side. Just dial it in, and then it comes with a clicker, which is necessary if you're not going to stay on top of your rig at all time. Basically what it does, if you don't know, engage the clicker wherever it is on the reel. It could be on the top of the side plate here or on the side of the side plate. Engage it, open the reel into free spool, and then set your reel down with a little bit of tension, and then when a fish engages, then you'll hear, "Got this clicker running, baby." That'll tell you there's a fish on, and you better get over there and set the hook. Oh, he's on. We're on, baby. Down into more of the equipment. Like I said, start to finish. First, depending on what you're doing, you can run straight whatever on this, straight mono, straight braid. I would say if you're going to run anything, run straight braid if you're going to run something straight. The mono has just too much memory. It's a mess after a little while. But again, it's up to you. 80-pound braid, and we're here on a 30-pound fluoro, a floral leader, but you can use a mono leader as well. Okay, let's move that over there. First, you got to thread on your bobber stops. If you're going to be using a slip bobber or float, got 2 of them on there. It really takes the punishment of the weight flying through the air. Buy them online. We can buy 1,000 of these for next to nothing. But again, 2 of them on there. If you go with 1, your stuff really gets punished throughout the day and your stuff slides around. You really can't hold your depth very well. Next, here's where the little style comes in. Throw a bead on there, 2 beads, glass beads, plastic beads, sweet, awesome looking beads. You can get these in a lot of different places. It's up to you and what you get, but something that can withstand the pain, like I said, or you're just gonna have to swap out when they crack. So don't fall off the table. There we go. Yeah, don't let them fall off the table when you're rigging them up. Next up is some sort of straw or protection to the float. There's a lot of different options here. I'm really partial to the stick and the float for this type of fishing with a bobber. You can go with something like this. I'll show you a little bit later. But something like this, the float, there's different styles of floats. There's little ball style floats. I really like the long one. And then when your stuff is floating in the water, your bobber's here. Example, you're floating and then your stick is in the water like this. And when your bait moves, you can really tell what's going on. You can see it bob up and down a little bit better than, say, if this was connected. But this is all experimentation on what you like. I really like it because with the stick, it puts the line closer to the water. And if you've fished catfish rigs a lot, especially in open water, there's a lot of drift involved. So if your line is not under the water, it's a headache because you're gonna have to keep moving, keep casting, and you don't want that. You want to stay in your spot when getting on these fish. So that's the biggest reason why I like it. Keeps the line closer to the water so less wind can grab it. But on the contrary, there's a lot more hardware here than, say, this and this. So give it a go, try what you think. Rule of thumb is I like to make it the straw or length of the bobber no longer. Sometimes I get shorter. I like getting shorter, just a little bit hardware thrown through the air. Just because, just recognize if you're throwing a lot of this through the air, if you're not throwing completely in line, I mean, casting distance effectively does take some practice. So you got to just try to cast as straight and as true as possible. It's another video to talk about, and these things will fly through the air. Otherwise, they'll kind of spiral, and then you'll get a bad cast, or you'll tend to backlash because all this is getting smacked through the air and it's folding up and it's just not looking good. You'll know if, when you're casting, if it was a good cast or not. Back to the gear. Moving on from the float, we're gonna put on another bead. Again, your choice, what it is. The main reason why you want something here is when you're casting, whether it's this or this you're using, when you're casting your bait or your bait fish or your bait, whatever you use on your hook, it's flying through the air and it's gonna stretch back. And you don't want it to collide with the line. It's hard to show. Collide with the line and wrap up and foul your hook. This extra material here really helps it keep from grabbing onto it. There's just a little more for it to bang into. It just, main reason is to keep you from getting a foul hook. And you'll know if it's floating like this in the water because your stuff will be like this. And it just, the presentation will be pretty easy to recognize if you got a foul hook. At night, it's a little bit harder. So throw a glow stick on and kind of feel out what your bait was looking like before something like this may have happened. Moving on to the bobber, straight up. This 8-inch fill big fish slider is cash money for these types of baits, guys. If you're throwing night crawlers, small to medium sized bait fish, bluegill, goldfish, shad, this is going to get it done. If you're going to move into more of a palm-sized bait, anything bigger than that, this is going to tend to sink on you just because they're too strong and they'll be able to pull it under. Unless you do a little bit of modification to the fish. But, again, this 8-inch is great if you're going to use more of those traditional baits. I'm talking night crawlers, like I said, small to medium bait fish. What else we got? Dead bait, chunk bait, blood bait, all sorts of the main arsenal of stuff you're going to be throwing is this. If you're getting anything heavy, you'll know because you'll sink it, and then you'll have to move to something else that I'll show you. Following that, another bead just to protect the weight from this bobber. This bobber really calls for this, specifically here, this Still 8-inch big fish slider calls for about 1.5 ounces of weight. I like to use one weight when fishing. You can take multiple weights and come up with the number yourself, but the less hardware you have, the better on the water, because there's just more hardware in the water for fish to come in contact with, more stuff to wrap up with, etc. one weight, get the one that you need, order it if it's not at your local shop, because it's just a better presentation. Next up, another bead, because this is the must. This, if anything, this bead right here is your absolute must. If you have one bead, it's got to go under your weight and into your swivel if you're going to be running a leader, because this takes a pounding and you will not want your knot breaking here. All right, so here's where I think a lot of guys make a little bit of a mistake when catfishing, is when they go for their swivel. This is what I'm using. This is a Spro welded swivel, hyper swivel. I'm not exactly sure exactly what it's called, but I'll put it down below. I'll put all the gear down below for you guys to find it as much as possible that I can find online right now. But this, the main important thing here is it's oversized. This is, I believe, a 2. Go for a 2 or a 3. The 3 is rated to 100 pounds of strength. So the 2 or 3 is what you're going to want to look at. The key thing here, look for something, whatever swivel you want to get, with a welded ring. That is important, this welded ring here, because you can pull these things out. Let me see here, got it right here. These cheap little swivels that some people are putting on, the way that is constructed in there, it's just in there, and you can easily pull that out. If you are fighting fish between 10 to 20 pounds, most often, I think you'll be able to get away with something like that. But if you are looking for fish anywhere above 30 into the 50, 70 rounds, if you are up in the 50, 70s, absolutely you need something like this, because your rig is going to fail and you're going to go nuts, and it was just because you didn't want to spend a few more bucks on a good swivel. Like I said, number 2, number 3, Spro swivel, or whatever giant swivel you want to get, it's really important. Right here we're running a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. You can run mono if you want. 30 to 40 pounds is where you're going to want to be. And this leader right here is a little long in my opinion. I'd want to snip that up to maybe at 6 inches, 3-4 inches worth of leader. It's up to you. It absolutely cannot be longer than your whole rig. So if your leader is longer than from your stick or whatever this is going to make your leader even smaller, and your bobber, you need to trim it because you're going to snag up, and then this is going to be completely ineffective because your leader is just too long. Finally, the hook. This is the hook that I prefer. I got a cover on here. Let me find more. Okay, got this 8/0 J hook. This is going to be the most traditional hook that you're going to want to use. 8/0 is going to be just fine to catch fish from 10 pound all the way up to 70 pounds. If you're going to be just targeting nothing but giant fish over 50 pounds all day long, maybe you want to go up to a 9/0 or even a 10/0, but this 8/0 is going to get you done most of the time. The alternative is going to be a circle hook. Again, 8/0. If you're going bigger fish, just grow the hook with the size of your fish. You can see how the bend points right back. It's like a circle. The key with this circle hook is you set the hook a little bit different. That's for another video, but the fish can hook themselves, so you just really need to be aware of where you're fishing. Some places just do not allow you to use a circle hook, especially say a pay lake. But just do yourself some justice. Look up if it's legal or not. Most of the time when you're out free fishing, it's legal, but just be safe and look it up. I like both methods. I prefer the J-hook because it's just a little more fun to swing on fish. Never had a problem hooking up either. Most of the time with the circle hook, you will get them in the side of the mouth, so if you're afraid of belly hooking, or if you're not going to be as attentive with your equipment, use a circle hook because you'll get them in the side of the mouth. Now, let's move on to the other style of rig you can use. We'll talk about it real quick because most of the equipment is the exact same. Sometimes I'll drop down to a 9-footer if I decide to do this. If I'm going into a lake and I want to just throw giant, big live bait, palm-sized, bigger baits, I switch up my rig here. This is another 10-footer. I'm not going to break it open. Got this Abu here. This is a C3, one of their older ones. Their KC2 model. Just an older one, different style. Got the clicker up here opposed to on the side plate. It's a 10-footer. Sometimes I like go to a 9-footer. But essentially, everything is the same on the rig except 2 pieces, or 3 pieces I should say. One, I prefer this as opposed, I use this little ball opposed to the straw. And then instead of the big fill bobber, I go with this Whisker Seeker here. This is their 2 ounce. It requires you to use 2 ounces of weight to hold a fish or hold this down effectively. Be cautious though that it is a float, contrary to a bobber that might be simple to mix up, but this can take a lot more punishment than this. This is made out of EVA foam. It's really soft and you can destroy it really easily. For example, we were whipping these with big weights on it because we just felt like it, and we tore it up. It really can't take the weight of being pounded. You can see how the straw is ripped through there. It's coming through the other end. It's going to do nothing but progressively get worse, guys. So if you're going to be casting with big weights repeatedly, use some sort of balsa wood bobber. If you're going to be just casting once in a while big baits, use this, because this can hold up those giant baits, because a big palm-sized goldfish will walk this around all day long. If I'm casting, I'm throwing this. If I'm throwing a live fish and leaving it, I'm throwing this. Again, back to this, live big fish. I like this pairing. It's just a lot less hardware in the water, and I've had no problem setting the hook because I'm pretty close to the bank. If I'm casting, I'm going with this setup right here. Last tip I can give you guys is we go with unweighted bobbers because I think they're a little more effective than the weighted ones. I like to know exactly where my weight is in the water column as opposed to guessing where I have the ½ ounce here, 3/4 ounce down there, a 1/4 ounce worth of bait fish over here. We like unweighted, and then we put all our weights on as we go. Finally, for this balsa wood, I like to add this waterproof electrical tape. It keeps these baits, or keeps these bobbers from cracking when you throw them off the dam, when you throw them off the bank. It's a cool method, and it makes your bobber look cool. Just leave a little bit of a color out so you can have a little bit of a strike indicator, but you're good to go. I think that's it, guys. These are a couple rigs that you guys can use to get after some big old catfish. These shovels, these big blues. My dad loves the blues. I hope it helps you guys. If you have any questions, please drop them down below. I know this was a lot to take in. Hope it really helped you guys. Hope it was done in an okay method for you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate all your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.